We're live. We're live. Good evening. Hopefully you can hear me all hear me out there. Happy Friday, everybody. Got quite a group right on off the top, so I appreciate that. Thanks so much for joining. Really appreciate that. Going to do some acoustic stuff tonight, but of course, as always, the acoustic stuff transfers over to the electric, kind of just basic sort of skills. Some of this stuff geared a little more towards acoustic, but still the skill and technique behind it is easily transferable to electric if that's all you've got tonight. So do that. Rusty, good to see you. Jersey Red, of course. Matt, what's up? Sup? GK has a question. He's looking for me on the site. So GK, you can find me. Most of the stuff I do on Guitar Tricks on the site are song tutorials. So if you go to the song section and just have a look down the list, you'll see me listed as an instructor on a lot of songs. And then what you can do is click on that song, and then you'll see another picture of me on the next page that comes up for the tutorial that you clicked on. And if you click my name, then I think it takes you to a page where it shows you all the lessons that I've done on Guitar Tricks, which is 99% songs. That's pretty much where I live on the site. So hopefully you can find some stuff there. Noah, what's up? Good to see you. Theodore, Jeff, good evening, good evening. HH, of course. Welcome, Dennis, of course. Steve in NH, all right. Peter, good day from Sydney, excellent. David, ooh, I just lost. Man, a lot of comments, I love it. Keep it coming. David Moran, hello. James from Syracuse, excellent. Andy, what's up? Friday. I love it. Jody 1, of course. Good to see you. Craig, of course. Ripper Day over there in Aussie land. Excellent. Nikki the dog, of course. Great to see you. Erica, welcome. Good to see you. Awesome. MA, Melissa from Tacoma. All right. I love it. Ron from Boston, welcome. Ray, what's going on? Welcome back. Welcome back. Glenn B is here. Excellent. E. Phillip 4 and Zane. All right. Thank you. Doug, what's up? From Denver. Excellent. Igor from Mexico City. All right. You made it. And John, what's up? John Carini. All right. Well, great group here tonight. Thanks so much for joining. We're just going to run through some beginner to intermediate kind of stuff on the acoustic. Pretty straight ahead tonight. Nothing super crazy. And just really the basic skills behind everything tonight. Clean chord changes, timing, rhythm, syncopation. Just working on just real basic stuff and trying to get it better and better, right? So hopefully the idea behind all of these musical examples every week that we do these sessions is for you to use it as a springboard to hopefully experiment, come up with your own exercises, be inspired enough to try this throughout the week, work on stuff that maybe is new to you, work on stuff that you feel is a weakness, and, just keep that progress bar shooting diagonally upwards, right? That's what we're all trying to do. So excellent. King 50, North Nevada, what's up? Excellent. Okay, so thought for a little curveball first exercise tonight. And by the way, as I always mention, those of you new who are unaware, we have the tab for what we're going through tonight. So expand the description below this video. You'll see a link to a tab, all right? And you can follow along, print it out, save it to your computer, whatever you need to do. And hopefully there's no mistakes in it because I'm the king of not proofreading these very well. So I think last week, no mistakes. I'm trying to keep the streak going. All right. I like that. Chad Miller, Nashville tuning someday. Yeah, we'll do that. Actually, I do have a set. I have another acoustic guitar that I could put a set on and I can demonstrate it. But basically what Nashville tuning is and what they started doing here in Nashville to record, basically to record a 12-string type sound. And instead of using a 12-string guitar, what they would do is play a 6-string with regular tuning and then have another 6-string acoustic with Nashville tuning. And Nashville tuning is basically would be the higher strings from what you would get on a 12-string. So you would have these higher octaves on the lower strings, basically. So it's they call it a high-strung guitar. And so what you can do is you could play those together, two guys play it together and kind of record it to a track, or you could record it in separate tracks, separate performances, and you can tweak the mix of how much of that 12-string flavor you want, and you have a lot of control over that. So I'm not sure the actual origins as to whether they wanted the 12-string and didn't have an actual 12-string around, so somebody thought up the idea to put some high strings on a regular acoustic. So Chad, great suggestion. I'll definitely do that in the future one of these days. All right. HH is feeling very motivated, making great progress. Excellent. Starting with a good way to practice, following your guidance on those 5-step videos. That is great news. Always great to hear that. Thanks so much. Keep going with it, okay? And it's really motivating when you feel like what you're doing is making a difference, right? So now you sort of have the lay of the land of what you should be spending your time on and what you need to do every day if you can, if not regularly, to just keep riding that progress. That's excellent. HH, keep it going, all right? Audible, what's up? Good to see you, good to see you. Excellent. All right. Exercise 1, I decided to put it in 6/8 time, okay? So normally our time signatures in most songs are a 4/4 time signature, which means that we think of it in terms of quarter notes. We divide the bar into 4, right? That's the bottom, 4/4. So quarter notes. So we've got 4 beats of quarter notes. And so that's where your count comes from. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, if we have a 6/8 time signature, 6/8 or 6/8, what that's telling you is that the subdivisions are 1/8 notes and that we have 6 of them per measure or per bar. Okay, so the way to think of it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It sort of has this group of 3 feel to it. Okay, and so normally what you do is sort of emphasize the 1 and the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and so as you can see in this example, in example 1, if you look at the staff, we've got notes with 1 flag on them. That gives you that 1/8 note thing. And then we've got actually smaller subdivisions. We've got 16th notes in there. So what that's going to do is tell you that we're going to have to do some upstrokes in between as well. So let me play the first bar. We'll see if you can kind of put it together by looking at the rhythm on the top staff as to what I'm playing here on this G chord. I've got an open G chord here, and this is the strumming pattern. So if you think about that, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so on the 1, that's just a straight 1/8 note that we're hitting, and that's on a downstroke. But then on the 2 and 3, you're splitting that up into 16th notes so that you've got a down, up on each one. Down, down, up, down, 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 up, down. Other cool thing about this strumming pattern is that we're sort of starting with the root just by itself, letting it ring out, and then filling in the rest with the upper part of the chord. Okay, so you can hopefully you can feel that how this is different from 4/4, where you've got that 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it sort of has that lilt to it, a little bit of a different kind of feel and a different bounce to it, right? And as Doug has suggested here in the comments, House of the Rising Sun, yes, 6/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, like right, with an arpeggiated. So you know, I guess you could actually use this strum pattern. Let's see. Okay. So you could actually use that same strumming pattern and just apply it to the House of Rising Sun chords. And Hallelujah is 6/8 as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sort of more of a. Okay, so this brings up a great question Ron has, which is why not 3/4? What is it with 6/8? And the answer to that question is mostly just what feels like the natural pulse. So usually it's sort of a feel thing, and it's a little bit subtle. So like a 3/4 would be kind of like a pa pa, like and it has something to do with the chords changing too, right? So if we've got faster chord changes where it's that kind of thing, a quicker feel, you might want to think 3/4, but 6/8 has kind of got that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for example, like Hallelujah is a better example for this. Like it's a little bit slower. And if you thought in 3/4, you would actually be doing sort of 2 bars on, right? That would be 2 bars of 3/4, right? Yeah, Jeff, that's it. It's sort of in the feel, like a kind of waltz feel, right? But you know, if you think if you had 3/4 and you're doing, you're kind of thinking like the phrase isn't quite finished, like this pecking pattern isn't finished, it's stretched across 2 measures, and that's sort of it's counterintuitive to kind of understanding what's happening when you look at tab, which is why it's something like that would be transcribed as 6/8 basically. Okay, so a lot of it has to do with just like what's the strumming arpeggiation, how quickly are the chords happening. Okay, so, probably clear as mud as to how to answer that, but that's the best stab I can do at this point. All right. So try not to think of 3/4 and 6/8 as it has to do with tempo a little bit, and you know, a waltz feel versus just a regular triplet feel, kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A lot of it has to do with drums too, right? Like a 3/4 drum beat would be something that repeats in 3 beats. But if you have a drum beat to a 6/8 song, right? You know, there's like a kick and a snare, and it's sort of a little bit longer. Then it makes sense to have, you know, transcribe it and feel it in 6/8. Okay, so that's another thing maybe to think about is sort of the rhythm section, the drums a little bit. Hopefully that helps. I know that by no means was that probably as articulate as it should have been, but hopefully you get the idea on that. All right. Yeah, seems like the 4 is always emphasized in 6/8. Yeah, it's those groups of 3. Okay, and that's what gives you that feeling, that triplet feeling, the feeling of groups of 3. So we've got this first bar. We're on a G chord. Okay. And in the second bar, we're going to switch to an open D chord, right? Same strums, but now what's challenging about this is that you are aiming for a single pick of the root notes. So you're going from the low string, which is a little bit easier because it's kind of the lowest string. You can hit that. But now you got to kind of maybe even have a look, right? Make sure that you're accurate with where you're hitting those root notes. Next bar is an E minor 7. Okay, so E minor 7, you've got second fret of the A and D with all the open strings for E minor, but if you add that D note, third fret of the B string, becomes an E minor 7, and then this particular voicing has the higher G note, third fret of the high string, and G is already in E minor, so it's still E minor 7. The important note is the D note that you're adding to the E minor chord. So it's just sort of a musical choice at that point, whether you want that higher E note ringing out or the higher G note, right? There's sort of a subtle difference, right? And what's nice about the E minor 7, this particular voicing, is that when we go to the C chord, you can leave your fingers up top and just come to the C chord on the bottom, third fret of the A string, second fret of the D, and don't have to change anything up top, and you get that C add 9. And once again, the D note is the key note in that because that's the 9 in relation to C, right? It's one step above C. So we've got, right? So you put it together, this whole exercise, which is what our goal is, right? You might have to, work a bar at a time to get this under your fingers a little bit, go a lot slower than maybe, you might want to at first, just to make sure you're doing it accurately, and then just keep adding in the chord changes until it feels a little more natural and like you've got a little more of a handle on it. Really nice approach there. So just with the 6/8 feel and some down up strums and just your single pick on the root note just gives a nice texture. So hopefully something to dig into in the coming week. And we do have some even closer to Neil Young stuff coming up. So Audible, stick around till the end. All right, so excellent. Let's see, Ron, I always have trouble with the ring finger on the B string for E minor 7. Hard to separate from the middle finger. Yeah. Just try to get that finger independence. And, when you know that you have a weakness on a chord, it's even good to not even think about strumming and just think about, on and off fingering, right? So you can see my shortcut on E minor 7 is that over the years I've gotten good at using one finger to hit two notes. So you can see I've got the lower part of this chord with one finger. That makes it a little easier because that's 4 fingers trying to scooch in there, right? Instead of just 3. But what you can do is just keep putting your fingers there, making sure that you've got enough clearance with your ring finger in relation to the pinky, right? Make sure that both notes are ringing out nice and clear. And just finagle those fingers so that it's in the right spot where it's nice and clear. Make note of it, off, try it again. And just keep this repetition for a couple minutes. This is a good way just to work getting your fingers in the right spot every time, and try to do it as quickly as you can. And it's just the repetition that's going to help that a little bit and hopefully gain a little more independence with that ring finger, okay? It's definitely different. If you're using all 4 fingers, then it's kind of your ring finger does want to move with it, right? Which is why I kind of, if I can get it with the index finger, I'll always go for that before it. All right, exercise 2. Let me play this one through a little bit and we'll talk about it, okay? It goes like this. Let's see. All right. So we've got some shapes based off of A7, basically, okay? And I call these shapes sixths, and I think I talked about this a little bit last week, where you've got the fretted notes are actually sixth intervals away from each other within the scale, in this case, A mixolydian. And so you've got these shapes that you can use with these sixth intervals that sound really good. And you can kind of keep some open strings ringing that make it sound pretty cool, right? So I've got the open A string kind of going along this whole thing, as well as the open G string. Okay, so I've got the second fret of the D, second fret of the B. And I'm muting to make sure that I'm not getting the high E string, although the high E string in this case does work and sounds good. It doesn't sound bad, right? But it sounds maybe a little less muddy or a little less cluttered, a little more focused if you're muting that high string. So I just curl my finger around to make sure that doesn't ring out. And you got to make some finger moves here because the next shape is third fret of the B string and the fourth fret of the D string, okay? And then you've got the fifth fret of the D and B string there. Whoops. And so our strumming pattern is starting with a quarter note and then 2/8 notes. So that's down, down, up. And then we're going to make that chord change to the next shape, right into the next downstroke. Down, down, up. All right, so you put that together. Okay, and then in the second bar, it's a little trickier because you're going up to the 5th fret for a down and then a down, but that quick up, you're gonna have to come back down to the previous shape. And then it's all upstrokes after that. So and then back to the repeat. Okay. Now check it out as I play this and watch the motion here. And you know, I'm like beating a dead horse on this, but this is really the key to keeping this timing really and the smoothness really nice on this. Notice this is moving. This is always locked with whatever we're playing with, whether it's a metronome, whether it's your foot tapping, right? Whether it's a drum groove, whether it's a backing track. That's really the key for some solid timing with your strumming, particularly on the acoustic, okay? And so I highly recommend that you try and keep this fluid, and it's all about what accents are we strumming and where are we just doing the motion but not hitting the strings, okay? Cool. All right. Let's see. Played ring fingers closer to the middle and index. Audible. Okay. Ring fingers closer to the middle and the index. Hey, what's up, Steve and Grad? Steve, what's up? Glad to see you. The pinky is what gets stretched. Played the ring fingers closer to the middle and the index. Gotcha. Okay. Doug. Mike, what about using this moving, say, a 1-4-5 sequence? Absolutely. So you can do, this is just using 6th intervals, right? But we can do an open A chord. Kind of a wild thing, right? Almost. Okay, so you can plug this. I mean, this is a strumming pattern you can plug into any chord progression, any chord sequence. Of course, it works great for 1-4-5. You could do A, D, E, full chords there, right? You got this different flavor though when you're sort of just strumming from the A to B string, and you've got these 6 shapes going on while you're pedaling on the A and open G strings. All right, so that's exercise A. What about exercise B? When we do the same idea, but with the open D string. And this time I'm going to mute the string in between and just fret on the G and high E string. I'm going to use similar shapes, pretty much the same shape. Okay. 2nd fret of the G and high E string. And what you want to make sure is that your finger on the G string is curled around to mute the B string, okay? You've still got that open D going, but mute the B string, okay? So slightly different kind of thing there because we've only got one note that's sort of ringing out throughout the whole thing. And so it's a little more of a focused sound. Yeah, a little more of a D7 kind of sound. Good one, though. Yeah, absolutely. This outlines a D. This outlines sort of a G. And then this actually outlines the D7 in a different, why can't I think of the word? Inversion is what I'm thinking of. Different finger. Fun stuff. And you can literally just mess around with these shapes all over the neck, right? Oh, whoops. That didn't work, right? Messing around. Okay. Erica, okay, will you let us know when you're using one finger for two strings? Because I'm really a visual learner. Yeah, so I'll definitely do that. So I did point out, I've only been doing that on so far in this particular session, just with the E minor 7, okay? So I get my index finger on the A and D string second fret, and I can make that happen. And it's something you can work at to make happen. You kind of get the pad of the finger right in the sweet spot where you get it, right? Otherwise, you have to use index and middle, and then sort of stretch your ring and pinky to the top two notes on that chord, right? That's it so far, Erica. It's just there. So, yeah, absolutely. I wasn't doing it in this one? No, I don't think so. No, yeah, the previous exercise 1 is where I was doing it, but in exercise 2, no. What I was doing was curling to mute. Maybe that's what was confusing about exercise 2A, okay? I mean 2B. You don't want the B string ringing out on this because it sounds a little bit weird. It adds a weird extension to it. So what you want to do is curl that finger so that it's just touching the B string without pressing down on a fret, and then you can keep that contained. Okay. That's all I was going for there. All right, everybody doing okay? All right, excellent. Cool. All right. Arpeggiated progression, you might recognize this chord progression, kind of a famous song a little bit. Let's see. Kind of up one note in there, but we'll try it again. Yeah, Doug, you got it before you edit it out. It's sort of the idea here. Now, again, sometimes when I reference songs, I'm not necessarily playing it 100% accurately. It's just sort of, there's the chord progression, and maybe I'm just simplifying some of the arpeggiations, or maybe I'm not quite doing it 100% note for note, but just giving you sort of the vibe of what we're doing. So arpeggiation practice on the acoustic. Of course, we could finger pick this, right? But I tend to save the finger picking stuff for our actual finger picking workshop, which will be in a few weeks from now. Doug, did he originally play that in drop C? I think he did. Yeah, it sounds quite a bit lower. Like, kind of just reference it real quick on the internet before kind of doing my own version here. Right, so we're doing it in standard. I think he definitely dropped the low string down to get that thicker kind of low sound ringing out. So arpeggiation is just, again, straight up, really worthwhile skill to work on. So what better sort of exercise to kind of do this? You see we've got some pickups here. Open A string and then the second fret of the A string going into that C chord. Now this is a C sus2. I'm not using the high E string on the first bar there. And I've got the third fret of the B string, third fret of the A string, but I've got the open D and open G string. So I don't really have a third in this chord. So it wouldn't be an add 9. It would just be that the third is replaced by the second, which is the D. So they call that it's just a regular sus2 in that case, right? So we've got third fret of the A. You can see the rhythms on this. So we've got a couple of 16th notes kind of woven into this 8th note pulse. So That open G string is a 16th note going into an 8th note on the 3rd fret of the B, which is rings out for an 8th note, right? And then that open G once again is a 16th note going into that open D string, which rings out like an 8th note. So, and you're going to find for the first 2 bars, that's sort of the same picking pattern. And each time you're going to drop the root note down 1 fret. Okay, that's all the same picking pattern right there. Okay, once you get down to that, it sort of references a G minor kind of sound. You're going to go up to the D major sound. So there's a little bit of modal interchange going on there, but yeah, Glenn, absolutely. The original on this, drop D, gives it a little bit of thickness. I'm not going to get us to all tune down our guitars right now. You can experiment with that if you want throughout the week or whenever. There's probably some great tutorials. I know we don't have this on Guitar Tricks, so there's probably some great YouTube tutorials on this anyway. But going to the D chord. Okay. So just a classic sort of arpeggiated fill on the D chord to go up and add the pinky 3rd fret of the high string, which makes it sort of a D sus4, and you're pulling off to the 2nd fret of the high string, which goes back to the D major sound. And then just coming down like that, right? So cool stuff right there. And then we've got a couple chords here where I just did my own I'm not sure exactly what he does on the original, but this is sort of the flavor. Okay, so I'm just doing an F sort of sus2. I call it an F, but it's really sort of an F sus2 because we don't have the 3rd in it. We've got the 2. So it sounds a little floaty, a little more open, and then just moving that shape up to 2 frets, and you're outlining a G major, right? And again, the picking pattern is the same as what we were kind of doing in those first couple bars. Now back to the D chord, but I'm going to leave the high E string open on it. And then a final strum on the D major kind of resolves it really nice. And then you can just pick it up again. That kind of idea. Okay, so work with it slow. And like I said, it's sort of a little bit of a pared down arpeggiation pattern, but it's great for learning to get comfortable with picking and arpeggiating and letting everything ring out over the chords. And work on getting your speed up, but work on it really slow first to make sure that you're doing it accurately and cleanly as you can. Make sense? All right, let's see, Doug, thinking, using these cool progressions you're using, accompaniment, this seems to work great to play with other musicians. Do you do this when joining other guitarists? Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of a thing that if you play with a lot of other people regularly, you start to get an instinct for this kind of thing, right? So, and it always depends on sort of what the instrumentation is of what you're playing. If it's another guitar player, what is he playing? And what can I do to enhance that versus just do exactly what he's doing? Usually, if you've got 2 guitar players, most of the time they're doing 2 complementary things. They're not necessarily doing the same thing, right? So if you jump into that situation, it's hopefully you've had enough experience to kind of have some ideas like this, like all of these examples that we kind of show you every Friday night, right? Are just little tools in a toolkit that you have where, oh, I know that something might go good with that, what you're doing, right? So that's where it comes from, just having a little bit of experience and having a toolkit of approaches like this, where you can listen to somebody play and kind of react and come up with some things to really enhance it. So great question. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Excellent. Glenn, we got you. We got you a good one, right? Excellent. Okay, so next exercise, exercise 4, what I'm going for here is the backbeat muted strum, okay? And I'm doing a little bit of a different G chord on this one. I'm doing the one where I've got the D note, 3rd fret of the B string. Okay. So 3rd fret of the low string, 2nd fret of the A string, open D, open G string, and then 3rd fret of the top 2 strings. And here's the strum pattern, which pretty much stays the same throughout this, but I sort of designed this so that you could just loop this G chord to get the strum feel right. I think it goes something like this. Okay, so I've got that muted downstroke happening. And what I'm doing is making sure I got my karate chopper coming down on the strings as I strum it, right? This is what we want to try and get under our fingers. So a down up on the chord and incorporate muted strum, and then on the upstroke like that, okay? Okay, this is what we're trying to get going, so that we've got to do this slow to make sure that we're doing it correctly. So that we can get it up to, you know, Bob Seger levels, right? Adds a lot of texture to add in that kind of stuff, right? Especially on the backbeat. That backbeat's really special. It's usually where the drummer's hitting the snare, right? And it's just to really emphasize that sort of percussive groove. Great place to always sort of put a mute, right? So go with it slow and just loop that G chord, okay? Right on, Audible. Love that. Excellent. Okay. And I added in sort of a quicker, in the 3rd bar of this example, example 4, added in sort of a quicker, okay, one more time. Let's see. Okay, so really cool once you get it under your fingers, but a little tricky in that 3rd bar. Yeah, it's a little got a Pink Houses kind of thing, right, Rusty? I was sort of, I wasn't specifically going for that. I was thinking sort of Seeger Night Moves, Pink Houses, that kind of, that always sort of what comes to mind when I hear something like this, okay? But yeah, tons of songs, right? Could be, yeah, you know, you speed it up a little bit, could be a Fogerty thing, like Doug's bringing up CCR, like absolutely, okay? So just a little bit tricky in that 3rd bar because you're switching chords in the middle of that strumming pattern. Okay, on that downstroke, mute, and then on the ups, you're on a different chord. You're on the C chord, and then you can do another mute and go back to the G on the upstroke, and then continue it into the next bar, which is just right into a downstroke, right? So it's a little bit tricky. Doug asks, can we mute all the F bar chords instead? Absolutely, yeah, you can if you want. And actually, this sort of comes to Doug's question. You know, do you use the right hand mute or the left hand release or both? Well, it depends on what you're doing. It's tougher when you've got open strings ringing out in the chords. You have to rely on the karate chop. You have to rely on this one because even if you release the lower notes, the ones in the middle are just going to keep going if you don't cut them off with this one, right? Which is why what I think what I'm getting with Ron, what Ron's getting with this is it might be a little easier for him to get that mute on the F because there's no open strings so that he can release off that chord. You know, and then you don't have to do the karate chop thing. You can just release off the chord and all your fingers are dampening the strings. Right, so it really comes down to what you're doing musically is going to dictate sort of which muting technique you're going to use, right? So it's good to know as many muting techniques as you can, right? Because there's all sorts of different musical situations where you've got to silence some strings or some notes, right? Sound good? All right. Exercise 5. Right on, Rusty. Look at that. I love it. Excellent, excellent. So exercise 5, the chop can't be too close to the bridge. Yeah, it's, you got to experiment a little bit because it's got to feel natural. Like for me, it feels natural sort of near the sound hole here, and I have enough room to kind of damp down with the karate chop there. If you like what Ron's saying, if you get closer to the saddles, I think it's harder to strum kind of a little bit closer there and still mute. So it needs to be, for me anyway, I feel like if you're aiming for the middle of the sound hole, that's going to give you enough room to sort of plant that karate chopper down there. Okay. All right. Exercise 5 is a pretty famous intro, but it's fun to practice. And so I thought, what the heck, let's throw it in tonight. Okay. Yeah, Audible's talking about picking down at the saddle. Yeah, you get like like you get kind of that clinky plinky kind of thing. Sometimes you want something like that, right? So really cool to experiment all over where you want to, if you really want it really mellow, kind of even above the fingerboard, right? And as you get closer to the saddles, it gets a little bit brighter. So experiment with that too. Tone is, you can vary the tone on an acoustic guitar that way, even if you're not plugged into any amps, right? So we have this, let's see. There's the next one. Okay. Once again, guys, this isn't really note perfect by the time we get to the end of this. But yeah, a famous intro, right? A little bit of pinball, which, by the way, we used to have on Guitar Tricks. Unfortunately, a lot of Who, if not all the Who, maybe all the Who was pulled, unfortunately, due to unable to renew the licenses, which was totally a drag. So we had a ton of great Who stuff on there. But what's fun is just taking a chord shape, right? Like upper part of a B minor. I'm just doing the top 4 strings of it. 4th fret of the D and G, 3rd fret of the B, 2nd fret of the high string. And just start changing notes in the chord, right? We're pedaling on this F sharp note, which is kind of cool. It's kind of tense. The whole thing's just dramatic and kind of tense a little bit, right? Start off by adding the open E string on it. Okay, and then go into that F sharp sus to F sharp, and with the open E, that makes it a F sharp 7, a dominant 7th, right? So. Okay, and then for Erica, this one, you've got the 4th fret of the D string. This is the F sharp minor 7 bar 22 on the tab. You've got the 2nd fret of the G and B, okay? I'm using one finger on that. So if you can finagle that, that makes it really easy to come from the chord before. Just adjust that index finger to get both of those. If you can't do that, maybe sort of the pinky and then 2 fingers on the G and B string. Okay, it might be tough. And then all open strings against the 4th. That's a really tense sound, right? And then just moving up this double stop, 5th fret of the D, 4th fret of the G, against the open B and high E string, get a G6 sound. And then go back to that F sharp major triad with an E up top which is your major 7, so that makes it a dominant 7th chord. And then the only way to kind of grab this is the thumb on the 2nd fret of the low string to get that full chord. And I'm not much of a thumb player, so I'm a little out of practice on that. Certainly when I taught Pinball Wizard for Guitar Tricks, man, I got a lot better at it because I really worked it. But then I don't really use it that much. So that's a tough one too. That's challenging to do it. But really, that's just the lower octave of the F sharp note. So if you don't have it, it still sounds good. Okay, if you don't want to get that thumb involved. But cool. Just to show you, basically, just to show you. Well, first of all, you know, a fun strum pattern with some chord changes to work on your timing, work on your clean chord changes. But also just to illustrate that, take a chord shape and start trying different notes, changing notes in the chord shape, and you come up with fun stuff. I'm sure he knows his theory a little bit, but he's also just messing around, okay, and coming up with stuff that, hey, that sounds cool, and that leads to this, and this leads to that, and that's kind of cool, right? So there you go. That's sort of the idea behind that one. Let's see. Townsend loved to build up with the arm swing. Yes, absolutely. Doug, sorry for the questions. No problem at all. I love questions. Do you find yourself using smaller frets playing electric? Do you find yourself using smaller frets playing electric just to not have too much ringing out? I'm not sure exactly what you mean with that. Like fret size, as far as the actual frets, like I kind of, I have some guitars with smaller frets and then other guitars with big jumbo frets. It just takes a little bit to adjust a little bit. But for me, as far as anything ringing out, too much ringing out or anything ringing out, that all comes back to just your muting techniques, right? And how important that is. And knowing as many ways as you can to silence strings that are ringing out. And there's lots of them. And I could do a whole thing. I might have to do a muting workshop. Actually, I think, didn't Dave just do one like a month ago or something on Facebook Live, Celentano? I thought he did a muting workshop. He might have. Check it out if you're on Facebook and go back in those videos. I think he might have done one. All right. Excellent. Steve, did you teach Hotel California? I'm about to work on it. Yes, Steve, I did the Made Easy, I think, version of that. Anders' version is still up there. I think we're going to reshoot that, though, because it's kind of old and they want to update it. But Anders did the full authentic version of it, and I think that's what's still up there. So, but I did a Made Easy version of it, just with regular chords, no capos and all that kind of stuff. No leads, obviously. Rusty, thank you as always. Appreciate it. Mark, what's up? And anyone just joining us now, I know we have a little bit of time left, but if you're rewatching this video and want to look for the tabs, they're below this video. Expand the description. There's a link to tabs if you want to play along, all right? GK, can we submit a request every week for a song we'd like to learn? We could try. I'm happy to I've kind of done that in the past, so if you want to leave one in the comments here, I'll have a look. And we'll see. I'll work it into whatever I'm kind of doing as an example or something, maybe teach some stuff. All right. Absolutely. Go for it. Right. All right, James, what's up? Who had the muting lesson? All right. Next one, bluegrass kind of stuff, right? So now we're getting into some single note stuff. I want to get a little bit of single note kind of things. We have a lot of strums and chord work going on so far, but bluegrass is great just for your picking skills, right? And also we have a bit of an eighth note swing to this. It's an eighth note swing. It's not a straight time example. And Rusty, you're asking if the Martin I'm playing is considered a parlor. No, I believe this is considered a dreadnought, which has it's generally a bigger body. I believe the parlor bodies are smaller. I think, pretty sure. A dreadnought is sort of a standard size, and it's sort of substantial compared to a parlor. Parlor is going to be, a lot of this is going to be kind of missing here. Steve says, I wish they'd let us reshoot Gimme 3 Steps. Oh, maybe we'll do that. I didn't see any Skinner on the list. I think we reshot Simple Man. That's coming. Dave did that. But Gimme 3 Steps. Hopefully, we'll see what's up. Look at Ron's got the zinger tonight. He attended a muting lesson once and couldn't hear anything, though. But a bucket of fish. I like it. That's funny, man. All right. Parlor is smaller even than the concert size guitar. There you go. Parlors are much smaller. Okay, there we go. Bluegrass stuff. So I've got this riff that repeats. Okay, using just basically the major. It's like major pentatonic, sort of with a blues note in it. The blues note for the major pentatonic is actually, it's right there. It's after the minor third, right? I mean, it's after the second major third, minor third, second, minor third, major third. You know that sound, right? So if we just loop this, whoops. Right, that's sort of the idea there, okay? The big thing to look out for here is that we are swinging it. Instead of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, where your ups and downs are evenly matched, you've got that upstroke delayed a little bit to go right into the next downstroke. Like that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's the exercise, okay? And so feel, that's number one, get that swing in there. Number two, it's just straight picking, right? So we want to get good at that. So try lots of repetition of these kinds of exercises and start to speed it up and say, right? That's kind of where we want to go with this stuff. Be able to get it faster, while staying clean and staying with a great groove. And that's only going to help you in everything else, right? So it's the whole idea behind that one. Okay. Cool. We're running out of time. We got exercise 7. Always try to do a bluesy kind of thing, right? Oh yes, Peter, there is a subtle hint that this is a swing rhythm. Okay. Peter's asking, but you can't tell from the notation that it has a swing rhythm. You actually can. And it's actually in above the title where it says 6 bluegrass riff. You see the 2 tied eighth notes equal a quarter and an eighth with a 3 sign. And what that means are triplet eighth notes. Okay. So as soon as it tells you that the eighth note is triplet, that tells you that you have a swung or a shuffle rhythm. Okay. So that's the indicator. You've got to see that. And you'll see in exercise 8, if you scroll down on the tab to exercise 8, when it goes 2 eighth notes equals 2 eighth notes, now you're back to straight time. Okay. So we're keeping a swing or a shuffle feel for exercise 6 and exercise 7, this bluesy one. Okay. Does that make sense? Excellent. Good. Steve says he's got a Seagull Parlor. Excellent. It's almost weightless, but pretty loud, just very tenor. Yeah. They project really well, right? But there's a certain frequency response. It's a little more focused, not quite as thick sounding as a bigger guitar, right? Because you're going to be able to pump out those lower sound waves with a bigger body, right? So cool. But yeah, projection, absolutely. Cool. Okay. Blues riff. There you go. Blues riff. Let's see it. Let's see. that's the exercise. Getting a little licks going on, right? So here we go. When you see that little arrow and a quarter on top of it, a quarter step bend, more or less, when we're talking about the blues, it's not an exact science. So you just want to put a little bit of a bend on that third fret of the high string. Just you want to hear that pitch go up a little bit. And again, we've got that, right? We're not playing it straight like that. It's got to have that bounce. And then this next lick, so, well, after the bend, just open E string, third fret of the B, open E string, right? And then we're going to slide into the fourth fret of the G, third fret of the B, and then a quick slide from 4 to 2 on the G, and then the open G string. Okay, so. Then you're into a rhythm in the second bar, and it's the classic blues boogie rhythm. Playing off an E power chord, low open string, second fret of the A string, and just 1 and 2. So on the second beat, you're going to the fourth fret of the A, but then on the next and back to the second fret. And so you're only going to that higher note on the second and fourth beat. Once again, the back beat, right? All right, cool. Final exercise. Thanks for hanging in tonight, guys. Speaking of Neil Young, right? Got like a strum here, a little bit of syncopation in the second bar, and then a simple little single note riff. Okay, starting with the root note. Once again, doing an E minor 7, but the strumming part is going to be on the top 4 notes of the chord. Same voicing we were using earlier. Okay. Yeah, and then open D chord. So chord note on the D, an eighth note on the D, and then on the and of 2, go into just a straight E minor, and then a little hammer on, open A to the second fret, to the open D string, and then E note second fret there. So. All right, I just thought I would kind of mess around with this. And what if we did something that kind of outlined that chord progression just using harmonics? Okay, so it might sound something like this. Exercise 8B, okay? And then let's see if I can put it. All right, Audible, take care, man. Let's see if I can put this together with the right timing. So you can outline those chords, E minor and D, with certain spots of harmonics, naturally occurring harmonics on the guitar. Okay, so check it out. First one I did was 12th fret of the low string. And by the way, how do you hit harmonics, right? Naturally occurring harmonics happen in certain spots across the fretboard. And the way to get them is to lightly press your finger on the string above the fret wire of where you're aiming. So not where you would normally press down to make a note, but a little bit higher so that it's on top of the fret wire, okay? And then if you remove your finger right after you don't have to put any pressure at all, just very light, just touching the string. And as soon as you pick it, lift it off, and it'll ring out. Okay? All right, so I've got an E note. Okay, so what you need to know is that on the 12th fret, the harmonics at the 12th fret are the same as the fretted note. Okay? So, in other words, I have an E note here, and I've got an E minor triad up top. So I can outline an E minor. Okay? And the reason Doug is asking, why do the harmonics work so well at the 12th, 7th, and 5th frets? It's physics. It has to do with the string length and how you're cutting it into different sections across the wire, the waveforms that come out. Okay, so it's sort of a physical, dimensional kind of thing without going into too much detail. But you've basically got, this is the halfway point, right? Between here and the nut. So you're getting the same note. But as you go this way, right? You've got an octave higher of the 7th fret. And then at the 5th fret, you've got an octave higher than the 12th fret. So that's why in the first bar, when I go 12th fret to the 5th fret, that's actually the same notes an octave higher at the 5th fret. Okay, so that's all E minor. Okay, and then I did some single notes here. I did a D note, 12th fret of the D string. It's going to give me a D note, so that takes me into the D chord. And then if I grab the 7th fret of the B, G, and D strings, those give me an octave higher than the notes at the 7th fret, which is a D triad right there. So you use those harmonics to make a D chord. And I started with the D note at the 12th fret and then ended it back down on the E minor. So that's what I did. Hopefully it makes sense. Mess around with harmonics. I did a harmonics workshop, I think, like a year ago or something like that. Is this how Roundabout develops? Yeah, Roundabout's got that just starts with that to just sort of set up the E minor sound, and then he plays a bunch of notes, right? So yeah, naturally occurring harmonics is what they're known as, HH. So yeah, mess around with it a little bit. If you're on Guitar Tricks, just type in harmonics. There's tutorials on it. Go into a lot more depth on the technique involved, but that's sort of like a crash course, okay? All right, everybody. We went a couple minutes over, but I certainly appreciate you hanging out. You all hung out for the whole thing. Great questions, great engagement. Thank you so much, as always. As far as next week, I won't be here. It's my 10th year anniversary, so I'm gone. But I will be back the following Friday. Okay, so no session next Friday, but the following Friday, I will be back. We'll be back on the electric, okay? So take care, everybody. Have a great couple weeks. Have a great weekend right now. Hope everybody's doing well. No, 10th anniversary, my friend. It's going on a little trip, right? All right. Take care. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for the kind words. Thanks for the questions. Thanks, everybody. I super appreciate it. And we'll see you in a couple weeks. Take care. Have a great weekend. All right. Cheers. See you guys.